Working 3 jobs to survive, I discovered my son's shocking 5,000 rent demand an incredible turn that changed everything. Sarah stood in her modest kitchen, sunlight streaming through the small window, illuminating the flour dust swirling like tiny fairies in the air. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweet scent of cinnamon cake cooling on the counter. Every morning started the same way, a dance of breakfast and laughter with her teenage son Jake. But today, beneath the familiar rhythm, tension crackled like static electricity. Just as she poured coffee into his favorite mug, Jake dropped the bombshell. He didn't simply ask for an allowance increase or a few extra bucks for games. Instead, he demanded $5,000 for rent. The floor seemed to shift beneath her, her heart racing with a combination of confusion and betrayal. "What do you mean, rent?" she stammered, barely able to comprehend what he had just said. Jake, leaning against the counter, his arms crossed, exuded a confidence that surprised her. "Mom, I love you and everything, but I need to figure out who I am. I can't keep living under your roof without contributing." To him, this was about independence, carving out a new identity, but to her, this felt like a betrayal of the sacrifices she had made. Nights spent cleaning office buildings while her friends kicked back. Mornings of pouring coffee at Daisy's diner, it all flashed before her eyes, each moment filled with hope for a future she envisioned for him. "Jake, you're still in school. Where do you think I'm going to get that kind of money?" she asked, her voice rising, her chest tightening. She poured all her love, ingenuity, and grit into making a better life for him, and now it seemed to be unraveling before her. The family dynamic she'd carefully nurtured felt like it was hanging by a thread. "Mom, can't you see? It's not just about the money," he replied, frustration spilling over. "I need to be my own person. This town, it's suffocating." He gestured dramatically, the walls of their small home suddenly feeling like a cage to him, while Sarah, for the first time, felt like she was losing grip on her only child. Sarah stepped back, memories swirling in her mind, their cozy dinners filled with laughter, the warmth of their hugs after a long day, her relentless drive to provide a better tomorrow for him. Each thought felt like a chain tugging at her heart. Had her sacrifices, her sleepless nights, pushed him away instead of drawing him close? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The air was thick, a silent battlefield in their living room. Agitation simmered as Jake's independent spirit fought against Sarah's desire to protect him. Would she ever understand his need for freedom, and could he ever grasp the magnitude of her love? Suddenly, the kitchen felt like an arena where both of them fought for their truth. "If I don't let you go now, I might never see the man you're meant to be," Sarah said, her voice trembling, tears pooling in her eyes. Would they ever find the middle ground between love and independence? The question hung between them, heavy yet uncertain, as the dawn of a new chapter loomed, one that would redefine both their lives. The silence stretched between them, an invisible weight, laden with unspoken fears. Jake shifted his gaze away, his bravado momentarily faltering. For a brief flicker, she saw the little boy he once was, the boy who used to seek refuge in her arms after a bad day. Blocking that thought, he straightened again, his expression resolute. "Mom, I need this. My friends are moving on. They're dreaming big, finding jobs, going to college. I want that too," he said, the passion in his voice rising, mingling with desperation. She could hear the tremor beneath the surface, the underlying uncertainty of youth yearning for the world. But his words dug through her heart, spreading jagged cracks through the base of their sturdy relationship. "Jake," she started, but he interrupted, his voice sharper than before. "See, that's the problem. You always want to shield me. It's like you don't believe I can stand on my own 2 feet. The accusation stung, hitting her like a blow. Hadn't she devoted her life to preparing him for exactly this? "It's not that," she shouted back, frustration spilling over. "I just don't want you to rush into things. Not yet." The irony wasn't lost on her. The very thing she'd fought for was now driving a wedge between them. A mother's protective instincts flared, clashing with her son's burgeoning desire for autonomy. How could she reconcile protecting him from what she knew to be a harsh world with the need to let him experience it? Jake took a step back, crossing his arms tighter. It's not like I've just made this up. I've thought about it a lot. It's time. It's time to try. His voice softened, a hint of sadness creeping in. I need to do this, Mom. I have to. Sarah blinked back her tears, tasting the bitter salt on her lips. Her hopes for a close-knit family felt suffocated. Memories of every bedtime story, every scraped knee bandaged, flashed before her. How do I know you're really ready? Jake hesitated, caught between his dreams and the reality of his youth. I don't know, he admitted, shoulders slumping, the fearless facade dissipating. But I need to find out. And if I fail, he trailed off, fear shimmering in his eyes. Sarah's heart ached. How could she let him go when the world felt so unpredictable? But what if you do fail? She felt that familiar knot tighten in her stomach. A mother battling against an inevitable separation. Then I'll figure it out. I always do, he said, his voice steadier this time. The doorbell rang, snapping them from their emotional standoff. Startled, they exchanged glances. Was it just the neighbors dropping by, or someone else? Sarah's gut instinct urged her to ignore it, to retreat to safety where everything was familiar. But Jake stepped toward the door, drawn like a moth to a flame. Maybe it's a sign, he whispered, hesitating before the door. Sarah felt that flicker of rebellious hope welling up inside her. The vision of him becoming the man he wished to be clashed painfully with the protective armor she wore. If she opened that door, would they both step into something unknown? As his hand rested on the doorknob, the ticking moments made Sarah's heart race. Would answer to this door open a new path, or lead them even further apart? The air buzzed with uncertainty, and as he turned the knob, she knew this moment would change everything. Would it shatter their ties, or would it ultimately bind them in unexpected ways? What lay beyond that door, and who was waiting on the other side, might change the course of both their lives forever. The door creaked open, revealing a figure against the backdrop of the fading evening light. Sarah's breath caught as she took in the familiar face of Jake's childhood friend, Matt. They'd grown up together, shared countless memories of summer adventures, and now here he stood, a symbol of everything the boys had dreamed of. The light illuminated Matt's broad grin, seemingly unaware of the tension that hung in the air. Hey Jake. Thought I'd swing by before heading out, Matt exclaimed, but his energy faltered as he glanced at Sarah, sensing the charged atmosphere. Yeah, hi Matt, Jake mumbled, his bravado wavering. The high spirits faded, with the weight of the conversation between parent and child lingering, blocking the light-hearted exchange that had once flowed so freely. Man, are you ready for this? Matt asked, stepping inside but immediately noticing the unspoken conflict. I heard hiring's good at the diner, and there's an opening at the tech store. Didn't you say you got accepted to that graphic design program? Jake's voice held both admiration and envy, sparking a flicker of hope. Yeah, but it's just a step. I still gotta pay rent, man, Matt replied, his enthusiasm gradually flipping into something more serious. Sarah felt her heart sink. She knew all too well the burden of young dreams colliding with gritty reality, the harsh path they had to walk to fulfill their ambitions. Her protective instincts flared up again. Could it possibly be the motivation her son needed? Or would it only add to the pressure? I don't have much time left, Jake said, his resolve surging once again. I want to grab these opportunities while I can. Matt chimed in, attempting to ease the situation. You'll have fun. Trust me, you'll grow. We've all got to take our licks to find our way. It's totally worth it. Sarah's heart wavered. Did she have the right to keep her son from experiencing growth and potential failures that accompanied life's lessons? But the prospect of him stumbling hurt her just as much as the thought of letting him go. Jake, she finally said, her voice steadier now, what's your plan? He straightened up, emboldened by Matt's presence. I'll work, save money, figure everything out as I go. I won't let myself fall. There was a determination in his eyes, yet Sarah couldn't shake the dread that followed. Sometimes plans change, she replied gently, reaching out almost instinctively as if to pull him back. Mom, can't you just trust me? He exclaimed, desperation bubbling beneath his words. Matt watched quietly as tension filled the room again. The echoes of their conversation reverberated as Sarah realized that this was not just about Jake proving himself. It was also about her learning to let go even if it felt like losing a piece of herself. The air grew heavy, silence spanning after Jake's words, each second weighty with impending choices. Just as Sarah opened her mouth, searching for the right thing to say, her phone buzzed loudly, breaking the moment. She glanced down. A message from her sister, asking for help with her kids, a reminder of her own responsibilities, her own dreams floundering under the weight of family obligations. But then she looked at Jake and Matt, their youthful energy juxtaposed against her worry. Would she let the fear of the unknown tether her to the past? Maybe we all need a sign today, she thought, contemplating the paths they could walk together or apart as the weight of the moment hung thick. She felt every heartbeat echoing through the house. Would she find the courage to support him? However daunting the leap into the unknown appeared? Just as Jake turned to his friend, sharing a wild-eyed laugh about an inside joke, Sarah realized something crucial. If they truly were on different paths now, it was time for her to nurture not just his dreams but her own too. With a mixture of uncertainty and hope swelling in her chest, the next question loomed large. Could she really embrace the change ahead, adjusting to her son stepping forward while she redefined her own future? That door had opened not just for Jake but for both of them. What lay beyond all their doors next? The sunlight had surrendered to a murky twilight as Sarah stood in the living room, her heart a tapestry of emotions. Jake and Matt's laughter echoed faintly, but it felt distant, like a sound from another world. She wanted to cherish their joy, but every chuckle reminded her of the gap that threatened to widen between her and her son. Are you really going to leave without even thinking about it? She asked, her voice softer than she intended. The optimism she tried to project felt heavy, almost like a burden wrapped around her. Jake glanced back at her, his youthful confidence faltering. I've thought about it, Mom. A lot. I can't just sit here and wait forever. His determination stirred something deep inside her. Fear and pride tangled together like vines. She admired his ambition, but part of her just wanted to shield him from life's harsh realities. You don't have to jump in the deep end right away. There's no rush, she urged, stepping closer, trying to grab hold of his fleeting childhood. Maybe take a weekend first? You could see how it feels. Mom, Jake said, shaking his head. I need to dive in to learn how to swim. There was a fire in his voice, an eagerness to taste independence. Matt picked up on the rising tension, his grin wavering for a moment. I mean, Jake has a point. We learn by doing, right? The words hung in the air, and Sarah felt a quickening pulse of resentment. It felt so easy for someone like Matt, buoyed by optimism. But the weights that filled Sarah's heart were born of sleepless nights and anxiety over bills, not carefree summer days. It's not all fun, you know. What if instead of growing you end up just struggling? The silence that followed was deafening. Her small voice contrasted against the drumbeat of dreams echoing in the room. Jake met her gaze and something shifted. There was a deeper understanding in his eyes. Mom, I want to be my own person. I don't want you to carry my dreams anymore. Tears threatened to spill, but she blinked them back. It's just I'm scared. Scared of what? He pressed gently. Of me failing? Or of me succeeding? His question caught her off guard. Both, she admitted, her voice quivering. If you succeed, things will change. And if you fail, well. The words trailed off into the heaviness of unspoken thoughts. Jake stepped closer, closing the space between them. I have to find out for me, Mom. Just like you have to find out for you. A breath caught in her throat. You mean? He hesitated, then offered a kind smile that felt like a homecoming. Maybe it's time we both figure out what we really want? For a moment the room was filled with promise, two souls navigating uncharted waters, both yearning for more. Sarah felt the warmth of that connection. Could they truly embark on new beginnings, parallel yet separate? But just as hope bloomed, the sound of her phone vibrating on the table shattered the moment. As she reached for it, another message slid in, catching her attention. This one was from her landlord. Rent's due and it's gone up, it read, a cold reminder of her reality. As she read the new amount, a chill ran through her. Jake, she said, her heart pounding. It's 5,000 now. A stunned silence fell upon them as Jake's eyes widened. What? That's insane. Matt's expression mirrored Jake's shock. How can they even do that? Maybe I've stayed too long? Sarah muttered, dread blossoming in her chest. The world around them felt so suddenly heavy, and darkness crept back in. The realization of her predicament loomed over them, casting shadows over fragile dreams. Could they both break free from their chains? Or was this an insurmountable obstacle that would change everything? What will you do? Jake's voice cut through the tension, while Matt shifted uncertainly. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of all their futures resting on her, and she knew that this was a crossroads. Each of them was at a pivotal point, ready to step forward or fall back. The door had swung wide open, presenting them with paths they didn't even know existed. Suddenly, Sarah's resolve strengthened. "We figure it out together," she said, her voice steadier now. But as she looked at Jake and Matt, she knew they were standing at the brink of a new chapter, filled with uncertainty and potential. What awaited them? The air felt thick with unspoken fears as Sarah stared at the glowing screen of her phone. The stark reality of the message hung heavier than the earlier tension, casting shadows over their fleeting moments of hope. Jake swallowed hard, glancing from the phone to his mother and then to Matt, who seemed frozen. His laughter evaporated. There was a stillness, a pause before storm, where uncertainty gripped all three of them. "Are we really going to let this ruin everything?" Jake finally said, breaking the silence. His voice trembled slightly, but beneath it lay an underlying force. "We can't just give up." Matt, searching for words, fidgeted at the edge of the couch. "You've been here for years, right? You make it work. This isn't the end. It's just another hurdle." Sarah inhaled sharply, her heart racing. She remembered countless nights spent poring over bills, the stress that crept in like an unwelcome guest. "It just feels like I'm always leaping over one hurdle, only to find another waiting. What if you didn't have to do it alone anymore?" Jake suggested, taking a brave step forward into the conversation. His voice steadied, filled with a conviction that struck a chord in Sarah's heart. "Jake," she began, her voice wavering. "No, hear me out. I'm serious," he pressed. "There's gotta be a way to make this work. There's options like moving in together or together." Sarah repeated, the word a knot in her throat. The idea frightened her for reasons she couldn't fully articulate. "That's a lot to consider, Jake." Matt shrugged awkwardly, trying to lighten the moment. "Why not? You get to save on rent, which might ease things for now. Plus, I could help out too. Maybe we could pitch in for groceries." Or the thought was both liberating and chilling. Would they really have to reshuffle their lives so completely? "I don't want to be a burden," Sarah murmured, fighting against rising emotions. It was a struggle between wanting to embrace the help and the fear of relying on her son. Jake took another step closer, his eyes locked onto hers. "You're not a burden, Mom. You're my mom. But it's time we lay some truth on the table. You've been carrying this weight for too long. It's exhausting to watch you." Tears threatened to spill, but she blinked them back fiercely. "I just fear how this will change our dynamic. It's all I've known." "And maybe that's the problem," Jake said gently, yet firmly. "Changing dynamics can lead to something beautiful. Something better." Sarah caught her breath, feeling a warmth spill through her chest, even amid the heaviness. Maybe they could navigate this next phase together. With a deep breath, she nodded, her shoulders easing just a fraction. "Okay. Then we do this together, but I need you both to promise me something. No matter what happens, we will communicate." "Honestly." "Deal," Matt said, a spark of relief in his voice, his goofy grin returning. "Together," Jake added, a powerful solidarity in his words. As they began to formulate tentative plans, getting a bigger place, cutting costs, reaching out for help, Sarah felt an unexpected rush of hope. They were evolving, learning to rely on one another in ways she hadn't thought possible before. But just as they started to map out their future, a knock echoed suddenly at the door, startling them all. Sarah exchanged a look with Jake and Matt, confusion quickly replaced by a buzz of apprehensive energy. Who could that be? She took a step towards the door, heart racing again, eager yet afraid of what awaited her on the other side. Could it be more bad news? Or perhaps a glimmer of good fortune? As she turned the knob, the door creaked open to reveal a figure standing just outside, enveloped in shadows. What did they want? And how would this change everything about the plans they were just beginning to build? Sarah squinted, the hallway light spilling across the threshold, illuminating a familiar figure. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, a kind but often overly curious woman. The worry etched across her face made Sarah's heart sink. Odd visits rarely meant good news. "Sarah," Mrs. Thompson said, voice trembling slightly, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just heard the commotion. I thought you might want to know. What is it? Sarah asked, concern creeping in. Mrs. Thompson glanced back down the hall, as if weighing her words. It's about your job. I saw someone. The manager was talking to a few others today. They said there might be cutbacks soon. The words hit like a brick. A sick churn began in Sarah's stomach. Cutbacks? Are you sure? Yes, dear. I didn't catch all the details, but it sounded serious. As the realness of this new threat sank in, the brick wall of hope that had momentarily built itself up felt like it was crashing down. Behind her, Jake and Matt exchanged anxious looks. What does that mean? Jake asked, his brows furrowing. It means less hours, potentially losing the job, Sarah finally whispered, her eyes reflecting the growing despair. The weight of the world rested heavier than before. They had just begun to contemplate sharing a life together, a way to ease burdens, and now this new possibility loomed over them. What if she lost her job entirely? I can look for something else. There has to be options, Matt offered, but his voice lacked conviction. No, I can't let you take on more just because things are uncertain, she said, shaking her head. It felt like a tightrope she was struggling to balance on. We're in this together, Jake insisted, moving beside her. We can face it no matter what. But we need a plan. Maybe I can pick up extra shifts. I'll talk to my boss, Sarah suggested, her voice shaking. Every possibility tipped the scale of hope and anxiety. They were standing at yet another hurdle, and she felt her strength wavering as they stood close. The notion of unity began to lighten the atmosphere. If we tackle this together one step at a time, we'll find a way through, Matt chimed in, his voice unwavering. We just need to be smart about it. And yet, somewhere at the back of Sarah's mind, uncertainty forced her thoughts into overdrive. What if it wasn't enough? Before we jump into solutions, what do we know? Sarah said, gripping Matt and Jake's hands to anchor herself. Let us gather information first. Talk to my boss, figure out what's really happening. Then we can decide. Jake nodded, and Sarah forced a smile, though fear crept in again. The plan felt weak. Just promise me we don't make any rash decisions. We have to be smart about this, okay? Promise, both boys said in unison. But as they started to discuss a plan, another knock suddenly echoed through the stillness. This time it came from the back door, sending chills down Sarah's spine. What now? She muttered, heart racing again. She shot a glance at Jake, who looked equally strained. What do we do? Maybe we should check, he suggested. But the hesitation in his voice mirrored her own. Something told her this was more than just an unexpected visit. And what if it tied back to the troubles looming ahead? With uncertainty gripping every nerve, she made her way through the house, the distance to the kitchen feeling like a lifetime. What or who awaited her beyond that door? Sarah's hand trembled as she reached for the doorknob, the cool metal biting against her palm. With each second stretching into a painful eternity, she stole a glance back at Jake and Matt, their faces tight with concern. They were her support, her lifeline, yet right now, doubt clouded the air like a storm waiting to break. Taking a deep breath, she turned the knob and the door creaked open. Outside stood a tall man with disheveled hair and tired eyes, wearing a heavily worn denim jacket. He looked lost, as if he had just wandered in from a rough day, the burdens of his world etched into every line of his face. Sorry to bother you, he said, his voice rough and hesitant. I'm looking for a friend, his name is Eric. Eric, Sarah repeated, squinting at the unfamiliar man. I'm not sure I know him. Can I help you? Yeah, he looked down, fingers scratching nervously at his arm. I should figured he wouldn't be here. We used to work together, things have been rough since, well, you know. A wave of unease washed over Sarah. She felt the anxiety ebbing into fear, her mind racing with thoughts of what kind of rough this man might be referring to. The whirling uncertainty pressed in around her. Is everything okay? She asked, her words tumbling out before she could stop them. You seem, troubled. He hesitated, glancing at the ground, then back at her. It's complicated. Eric, he hasn't been the same since he lost his job. We were trying to figure out a plan, but now I can't reach him. The mention of lost jobs echoed painfully in the pit of her stomach, her own fears surfacing again. She couldn't let her mind spiral. This wasn't about her right now. She needed to stay focused. Wait here, she said, a decision forming in her mind. I'll get Jake. Maybe we can help you. She turned quickly, calling for her friends. They emerged from the living room, concern lining their features. Is everything okay? Jake asked, scanning the man's face before shifting his gaze to Sarah. His friend Eric is missing. Some job situation might be at play, she explained, gesturing toward the stranger. What job? Matt asked, tilting his head slightly. I don't know, Sarah admitted. But we can ask. Maybe he knows something that can help. As she turned back to the man, she felt a swell of determination. If they could help this stranger, perhaps somehow it would shield her from her own fears. They needed more information, perhaps together this would bring clarity to their situation. Hey, what is your name? Jake asked, his tone shifting from suspicion to openness. Mark, the man replied, his expression softening slightly. I don't want anything bad to happen to Eric. He was going to help me find something else, and I haven't heard from him in days. Do you have any idea where he might be? Matt followed up. Mark shrugged, looking weary. He had talked about visiting an old coworker, maybe trying to get that job back. The three of them shared looks. It clicked. A potential lead that might not just help Mark, but might also provide insight into the concerns swirling around Sarah's own job. The thought made Sarah's heart race again, like a connection to her own worries. Where does this coworker live? She asked, pulling out her phone, adrenaline surging. Mark hesitated before providing an address. Her mind filled with possibilities. A chance to help someone. A chance to uncover something that might save Eric, and perhaps even shed light on her own precarious situation. As they gathered their things, it hit Sarah again, just how intertwined their stories were. Nothing was as separate as it seemed. They were all just people trying to survive. The weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. Let us go, Jake said, determination in his voice. Sarah nodded, pushing herself forward, anchored by hope despite the nagging fear. But what if this journey led to more than just a search for answers? What if it opened an entirely different door? The car ride was filled with an anxious energy. Sarah sat in the back seat, glancing out the window as the world outside blurred by. Trees flickered like movie scenes, but her mind only replayed Mark's words about Eric. The concern in his voice echoed in her heart, and she felt an urgent need to do something significant. Do you think Eric's all right? She finally asked, breaking the silence. Mark tilted his head, his gaze locked on the road ahead. I hope he is safe. He was always the dependable one in tough situations. Losing his job changed him, though. I'm scared he might have given up. With each word, Sarah felt the burden of familiarity in his fear. It was a mirror reflecting her own insecurities about her job. Would she become just another statistic like Eric? She swallowed hard, determination pooling inside her even as her throat tightened with anxiety. You're doing the right thing by looking for him, Jake offered, glancing at Mark through the rearview mirror. Means a lot that you care. Yeah, well, hope only goes so far, Mark replied, his voice tight. What if he is too far gone? In that moment, the weight of hopelessness filled the car. Sarah shifted in her seat, trying to find words that might lighten the mood or spark some inspiration. She thought about the kindness of strangers, the universal struggles of losing a job, and how, amid the chaos, the smallest actions could bring someone back from the edge. Maybe we can help him get back on his feet, Sarah suggested, her heart racing with the idea. People can turn things around. I mean, look at us. We're all in this together. Matt nodded, although his eyes reflected doubt. It's a tough world out there. Sometimes it's hard to see the light. Then let us be the light, Sarah insisted, surprising herself with her confidence. The conversation shifted slightly, and for a moment, hope threaded through the air. Within minutes, they arrived at the address Mark provided. The house was modest, faded paint peeling from the walls like memories that had outlived their welcome. Sarah felt an instinctive pull to step inside, as if answering a call she had not realized was being made. Mark stepped out of the car first, his body language hesitant. Sarah got out, followed by Jake and Matt. They gathered close, their collective presence amplifying the seriousness of the moment. Are you ready? Jake asked, an unusual weight to the question. Each one of them understood what was at stake, not just for Eric but for the journey of self-discovery they all faced. Mark nodded slowly, his face etched with worry. Yeah, I need to know if he is okay. With a deep breath they approached the door. Mark raised a hand to knock, but it hovered in the air as he hesitated. The fear was palpable, like a thunderstorm about to burst. This was more than just about Eric, it was about friendship, redemption, and the bonds that tethered their lives together. Suddenly, the door swung open, revealing a woman with deep-set eyes, a shadow of recognition crossing her face. "Mark?" she asked, her voice wavering. "I was just about to call the police." Before she could finish, Sarah felt a jolt of urgency. Who might be on the other side of that door? What would they uncover within those walls? "Wait," she blurted, instinctively reaching for Mark's sleeve. "What if this is more complicated than we think?" The tension crackled in the air around them. What had they stepped into, and could they truly handle the truth together? Mark's hand fell slightly, the tension in his voice breaking as he looked at the woman, whose expression conveyed a mix of worry and disbelief. "Lily?" he stammered, his eyes wide. "Mark, I didn't expect to see you," she replied, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. "Is Eric here?" Mark pressed, urgency surging through him. Lily hesitated. Her gaze darted behind her, as if the shadows within the house held answers she wasn't ready to confront. "Yes, I don't know. Yes, not himself lately. I think he might need help." The words hung in the air, a frail thread woven from hope and fear. Sarah felt a shiver ripple through her. She shared a look with Jake and Matt. They too were absorbing the gravity of Lily's admission. "Can we come in?" Jake asked gently, his voice steady, attempting to ease the heaviness of the moment. Lily stepped back, her shoulders slumping. "Yes, please. I don't know what else to do." They entered the dimly lit house, a space cluttered with shadows and remnants of once thriving life. As they stepped inside, Sarah caught glimpses of Eric's past, a guitar in the corner, books scattered like fallen leaves, and photographs hanging on the walls showcasing moments of laughter. But something felt off. The atmosphere was thick, a warning that something darker lurked beneath the surface. "Where's Eric?" Mark asked, the concern in his voice echoing through the quiet house. "I think he's in his room," Lily said, her eyes darting toward a closed door at the end of the hallway. He hasn't been out in days. I'm really worried about him." Mark moved toward the door, hesitation creeping in as he hovered for a moment. "What if he doesn't want to see me? Then we'll figure out how to reach him together," Sarah said quietly, stepping beside him and placing a reassuring hand on his back. With a deep breath, Mark knocked lightly before opening the door. A twinge of uncertainty pooled in Sarah's stomach as the door creaked open, revealing a room steeped in darkness. "Eric." Mark's voice was softer now, hesitant. A figure lay curled on the bed, a familiar shape. Yet, the stillness of the room spoke volumes of despair, of a struggle too great to bear alone. "Mark, is that you?" Eric's voice came out thick and slurred, a breathless whisper as if he were waking from a long dark dream. The sight of him ignited a wave of emotions: relief, fear, heartbreak. Sarah could see the shadows under his eyes, the unshaven face, and the once bright spirit now dulled to a flicker. "Yeah, it's me. I'm here," Mark replied, stepping forward with a mix of caution and determination. "We all are. We came to check on you." Eric stirred, blinking slowly as he fought against the weight of his own despair. "Why? I'm not worth it." The words landed like heavy stones in the room. Every heart in that tiny space ached. Sarah knew something needed to shift, something to break through the fog of hopelessness. "You are worth it," she said firmly, stepping into the light. "You're not alone, Eric. We're right here." For a moment it felt as if time stood still. The air was thick with emotion as Eric looked up, and Sarah could see a flicker of recognition, a small spark igniting. Maybe, just maybe, there was a path back from this darkness. But the clock was ticking and every second counted. What would it take to break through? Would Eric let them in, or would he slip further into the shadows? As Mark searched for the right words, Sarah held her breath, praying for a breakthrough that felt closer than it appeared. "Eric, can we talk?" Mark finally said, holding a thread of hope in his voice. The door loomed open, and behind it lay the secrets that would define their path from here on out. Would they find the strength to face them? Eric blinked slowly, his eyes searching the room, darting between familiar faces and fleeting doubts. Why should I?" he murmured. The fragility in his voice struck a painful chord in Sarah's heart. Eric felt like a ship lost at sea, drowning in uncertainty, desperately needing a lifeline. "Because you matter," Sarah replied gently, stepping a bit closer, feeling the gravity of the moment. "You're not just a number. You're Eric, our friend. You've always been there for others, and now it's our turn to be here for you." Behind her, Jake shifted restlessly, his youth and hope radiating off him. "You have us, man. We want to help you through this. Just talk to us," he added, his voice filled with the unwavering belief of someone who still saw a path forward even amidst chaos. Eric's brow furrowed, wrestling with his emotions. "You don't understand," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just broken." The vulnerability hung in the air like a weight, and Sarah recognized a familiar feeling. She had seen the same despair in her own life, the fear of not being enough, of losing everything. It sent shivers down her spine. "But broken things can be repaired," Mark insisted, stepping forward with conviction. "I've been worried about you, man. We all have. Every day matters, each connection counts. You have a chance to change this, to fight back." His plea echoed through the dim room, infusing it with a glimmer of hope. For the first time, Sarah saw a flicker of recognition in Eric's eyes. He was hearing them. Maybe it was the warmth of companionship that began to pull at the knots of despair. "And what if I fail? What if it's too late for me?" he asked, almost pleading as he hunched over, arms wrapped tightly around himself. "It's never too late," Sarah breathed, the urgency rising within her. "You can't predict the future, but you can take a step towards it. We're all in this together, and you're not alone. Please let us help you. Let us be the light in your darkness." A heavy silence ensued, each heartbeat resonating in the air like a ticking clock. Slowly, the walls around Eric began to crack. He looked up, and for a brief moment they all breathed as one. "Could you really help?" he mumbled, vulnerability spilling from his voice like an open wound. "Absolutely," Mark said, and Sarah felt her heart swell with hope. "You've always been there for me. Now it's time for us to band together. We're not just friends, we're family." With those simple words, the chains of isolation began to break. Eric nodded, a tear escaping the corner of his eye, and it felt like a dam bursting forth. The room filled with raw emotion, each person's heart laid bare as they recognized the transformative power of connection. This was more than just about Eric. It was about them all, confronting their battles and finding strength in unity. As they ventured into discussions, plans for support, steps towards healing, Sarah felt something shift within her. She needed this as much as Eric did. They were all fighting their own fears, figuring out who they could be. A few moments later, laughter bubbled up in the room, breaking the heavy tension as Eric began to share stories about his past. They were small moments filled with nostalgia, the kind that reminded them why they all mattered to each other. "See, this is who you are," Jake laughed, nudging Eric. "You've got so much good in you." In the warmth of that small space, something magical began to take shape, a bond stronger than before, a collective resolve forming. As Sarah stepped back, taking in the sight of them, friends becoming a family, fears melting into laughter, she realized something profound. She didn't have to bear her burdens alone, and neither did Eric. With newfound strength, they determined to support one another through life's uncertainties, standing at the edge of the unknown but together. The air hummed with possibility, the darkness retreating as hope blossomed bright and bold. And just like that, something within them all shifted. They learned to embrace change and sought the dreams that had seemed so far out of reach. As they stepped out of that room, united and determined, Sarah glanced back at Eric. "We've got this," she affirmed, hope lighting her spirit. That he smiled, and for the first time in a long while, that flicker of spirit returned to his eyes. Maybe he really could find his way back. And in that moment, everything began to change. Now it's your turn. If you felt the impact of this journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support, so hit that like button now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment below and tell us your reactions and feelings about the ending. Join our community where we uplift each other.